والدی کا سلام. قبر اصغر کو بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. شاید وہ ایک چاند بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. شان ہر لاش کو جلدی سے اٹھایا لیکن شان ہر لاش کو جلدی سے اٹھایا لیکن لاش اکبر کی اٹھانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. لاش کا سو کی اٹھاتے ہوئے مولا نے کہا. لاش کا سو کی اٹھاتے ہوئے مولا نے کہا ہے افسوس لانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. چند قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار مگر. چند قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار مگر. پھر بھی شہزادی کو آنے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. چند سطرے تھی مگر لاش علی اکبر پر. چند سطرے تھی مگر لاش علی اکبر پر. شیخ کو ایک خط پڑھ کے سنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. باپ کی لاش پہ دروں کی اذیت دے کر. باپ کی لاش پہ دروں کی اذیت دے کر. ایک بچی کو ہٹانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر
Thank you, Brother Ghulam Jabir. I would now like to invite our final reciter, Brother Nazir Shah Sahib.
बाबा से बुलंद फिर सलाम ज़्यादा नहीं रहना इसलिए कि अल्लामा साहब का खिताब हमने सुना just a few minutes लम युलिद हमारा ईमान है वलम युलद हमारा इकान है उसकी ज़ात लामकान है वो बेमिसल है बेमिसाल है बेबदल है बेबदील है बेजिस्म है बेनज़ीर है मिसल उसके कोई शय नहीं शरीक उसका कोई है नहीं वो वादा शरीक है अज़ीज़ान मोहतरम यही हमारा अक़ीदा है दिस इज आवर बिलीफ और इन सूरह लुक़मान नबी सूरह लुक़मान में जो लुक़मान नबी ने अपने बेटे को वसीयत की है सबसे बड़ी वसीयत जो हज़रत लुक़मान अपने बेटे को कर रहे हैं द बिगेस्ट एडवाइस लुक़मान नबी इज गिविंग टू हिज सन इज या बुनय्या ला तुश्रिक बिल्लाह या बुनय्या ला तुश्रिक बिल्लाह इन्ना शिर्का ज़ुल्मुन अज़ीम ऐ मेरे बेटे शिर्क न करना शिर्क बड़ा जुल्म है शिर्क बड़ा गुनाह है अल्लाह कभी उसको माफ नहीं करेगा जो शिर्क करता है ये बड़ा जुल्म है इससे बचना ये सबसे बड़ी वसीयत है जो लुक़मान नबी सूरह लुक़मान में अपने बेटे को कर रहे हैं और मैं इल्तिमास भी करूंगा मौलाना साहब की मौजूदगी में इन द प्रेजेंस ऑफ मौलाना साहब कि वालिदैन को भी कहा जाकर सूरह लुक़मान का मुताला करें और उसको अच्छी तरह पढ़े कि लुक़मान नबी ने अपने बेटे को किस किस की वसीयत की है और बच्चों को भी चाहिए कि you can read the translation in English and you will find all the good advices Luqman Nabi is giving to his son. So it's worth reading. We all read Quran, alhamdulillah. Do we? We all do. So go home and read just Surah Luqman and it will open your eyes that what Luqman Nabi advice is giving to his son. Baba Zibran Salah. Once Prophet ﷺ was asked, what is more important than prayer? Salat said, better kaun-si cheez hai? What is more important than prayer? And the Prophet ﷺ answered, it is the spirit of prayer which is more than prayer. It is the spirit which animates the prayer. And then the Prophet ﷺ was asked again, what is more important than fasting? And the Prophet replied again, it is the spirit of fasting. And every question our Prophet ﷺ was asked concerning a practice of Islam, the answer was the same. It is the spirit of every Islamic movement we do. If there's no spirit, if there's no spirit, then that prayer which we do is just a body movement. We are just moving up and down, it's no more than that. And it's the same with the fasting. If there's no spirit in that fasting, then that fasting is just a hunger. But when that spirit enters, English is not very good, but I'm doing my best. Salawat. But when that spirit enters, how can I say, when that pure and concentrating spirit enters, then that prayer is no longer a prayer, it becomes a miraj. A miraj is a spiritual elevating journey. And it's the same with the fasting. When that spirit enters that fasting is no longer a fasting. It approaches to the potentials to witness Laylatul Qadr. Laylatul Qadr is the night of destiny, when the blessings from the world came to this world. Taking much time? Salawat. And the purpose of mankind is to promote. Mankind came into this world for a reason, and the reason is to promote. And one can only promote if he abides himself according to the teachings of Al-Bayt and Quran. And there's a famous hadith, you all know, even our big ones know, hadith istiqlain. Inni tarakum fikum istiqlain, kitab Allah wa itrati bi Al-Bayt. When the Prophet ﷺ says that I am leaving this world, I will soon depart from you, but I'm not just leaving you like this. If you can't find a way, if you can't find a path, if you can't find your destiny, then I'm leaving you a raya. I'm leaving you such a thing that if you grasp these two things, you will never go astray. One is the Al-Bayt, and the other one is the Quran. But the thing is, we talk about these things, Hamari Qibla, they talk from this pulpit about Quran and Al-Bayt. But to be honest, we see the moment far away from the Quran. It happens with the other sects. They have the Quran, but somewhere in there they have books for Al-Bayt. And sorry to say, we have the Al-Bayt, but we are far away from the Quran. But the Prophet ﷺ says, it's two weighty things which I am leaving for you. You cannot just hold on to the one thing and leave the other, because the Quran is the theory and the Al-Bayt is the practical. And you can see the practical life of IMI Hussainia Mosque. That is the practical Quran. After my speech, I'm getting there. Anyway, मेरी दुआ है, अगली दुआ कि खुदावंद आलम, for this purpose, Allama Sam has come from America. I hope his speech purifies and enters our youngest hearts, and they come here and they learn from him. Allah Ta'ala हम सबको, आपको सबको कुरान और नमाज पढ़ने की तौफीक अता फरमाए और इस पर अमल करने की तौफीक अता फरमाए. Thank you for your time.
Alhamdulillah, again tonight we are honored to have amongst us Brother Syed Bilal Rizvi from America. He delivered an amazing lecture yesterday and we are excited for tonight's lecture. I would now like to humbly invite Brother Syed Bilal Rizvi to the minbar to deliver tonight's lecture. Can we all welcome him with 3 loud salawats?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. والصلاة والسلام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين. أما بعد، قد قال مولانا أمير المؤمنين إلى مالك ابن الحارث الأشتر في عهده إليه: فإنهم صنفان، إما أخ لك في الدين ونذير لك في الخلق. صدق مولانا علي بن أبي طالب صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. For the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, as well as to the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You find whenever an action is performed, there is a perfection and a peak towards that action. That whatever that action may be, you'll reach a point that after that point, there is nothing that exceeds it. In the same way, you can say that there is a nahj towards every action. And in the same way, when it comes to the kalam of the human being, there is a peak and there is a nahj, and that peak is the kalam of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And you find that peak is exonerated, it's exemplified within Nahj al-Balagha, a text which you find that each and every one of us have mentioned, we have heard of that text. And a text you find which has a diverse number of teachings within it. For example, the one who is interested in child development, you find there is the advice of Amir al-Mu'mineen towards Imam al-Hassan. For the one who is interested in the fadail of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, you find the Imam's reply towards Muawiyah in one of his letters is there. For those interested in Tawheed and the oneness of Allah, you have the first sermon from amongst the sermons. And in the same way, when you are interested in social interaction and social administration, you have letter 54 of Nahj al-Balagha, or letter 53, depending on the version which you have, in which the Imam writes his famous advice to Malik ibn al-Harith al-Ashtar. And indeed, the topic of tonight's majlis is an analysis of this letter of Amir al-Mu'mineen to Malik al-Ashtar. And you find this topic, it holds relevance in a number of ways. Number one, you find when it comes to the movement of Imam al-Hussein, and Imam al-Hussein, he was describing his movement in his will to Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah. The famous lines of the Imam are there. إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِسْلَامِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي, that I have only left to bring reform in the nation of my grandfather, and to bid towards that which is good, and to prohibit that which is evil, and to follow in the footsteps of my grandfather and my father Amir al-Mu'mineen. You see, the Imam is saying, not only does he say the footsteps of Rasulullah, but he mentions specifically his father Ali ibn Abi Talib, because he's showing the Muslim Ummah at that time that the reason deviation has occurred from the path of Rasulullah is because you have left the path of my father Ali, the successor of Rasulullah. And to understand this reality, one needs to go and understand the methodology of Amir al-Mu'mineen to understand how the Ummah had deviated from the path of Rasulullah. And indeed, this letter is one of those texts which allow us to do so. From a second level, you find that this discussion of the letter of Amir al-Mu'mineen to Malik, it will allow us to go into this text, Nahj al-Balagha. You know, I remember Shaheed Murtaza Mutahiri, he would give an example about Nahj al-Balagha. He would say that my relationship with Nahj al-Balagha was like this. That imagine that there is somebody within your neighborhood, and you would see that person in your neighborhood. You would walk within your neighborhood, you would see him every day, but you would never speak to that person. Then years go by. After years go by, you sit down with the person. When you sit down with him, you realize he's a delightful individual. An individual you can share a connection with. An individual who benefits you. Shaheed Murtaza Mutahiri says, my relationship with Nahj al-Balagha was the exact same way. I would see Nahj al-Balagha upon the bookshelf of my father, but it's only when I picked up Nahj al-Balagha consistently that I realized that there was a connection with this book. You see, when it comes to Nahj al-Balagha, a number of individuals outside the school of Ahlul Bayt have seen seen the position of this book. You look like at an individual like Ibn Abil Hadid al-Mu'tazili. Ibn Abil Hadid al-Mu'tazili was not a Shia, but in 20 volumes he writes a commentary on Nahj al-Balagha. And when he writes this commentary on Nahj al-Balagha, he says, as I read through Nahj al-Balagha, I get the feeling that this book, that the wordings within this book is fawqa kalam al-bashar wa tahta kalam al-khaliq, that it is above the words of the creation, but is less than the words of the creator. That you take an individual like George Jordak, I mentioned his name yesterday, Sawtul Adalat al-Insaniya, the voice of human justice was his book. You find that George Jordak, why did he come to write this book? He said that I was in Lebanon. I had a friend who gave me Nahj al-Balagha. And it was out of the love for my friend that I took the book. You see, this is a productive friendship. That they exchange thoughts, they exchange ideas, they exchange teachings. He says, out of the love of my friend, I took Nahj al-Balagha. When I took Nahj al-Balagha, I opened the book. I saw that Ali was talking about a scientific discovery which hadn't happened yet. So I thought to myself, this man, he lived 1400 years ago. What am I going to do benefiting from this book? He says, I closed Nahj al-Balagha. I decided I would never open it again. He then says that night, as I was watching a television program, the same discovery on that program Ali was talking about in Nahj al-Balagha. At that point, I decided to open up Nahj al-Balagha again. And from that moment in my mid-30s until this day today, I have read Nahj al-Balagha over 200 times. And each time I gain something which I didn't gain the previous time. That you see, this is an individual who is a non-Muslim. He is saying he has read Nahj al-Balagha over 200 times. I say you as the Shia of Ahlul Bayt, as the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, have we even opened up Nahj al-Balagha 200 times in our life? That is a question to reflect upon. When non-Muslims have realized the realities of Ahlul Bayt, but we are neglecting those realities. You know, there was a professor, Thomas McKelvin. He was a comparative studies professor, Taqabul Adyan. He says that he became a Muslim. When he became a Muslim, they said to him that, why did you come to Islam? He says, I do not believe it's possible that somebody reads the correct translation of the Quran with sincerity and does not become a Muslim. They said to him, then you are a Shia. How did you become a Shia? He says that I also do not believe it's possible for someone to read a portion of Nahj al-Balagha, not all of Nahj al-Balagha, a portion of Nahj al-Balagha and not come to the school of Ahlul Bayt. They said to him, you're a Muslim now, your name is Thomas McKelvin. You're going to have to change your name. Is there any name you want to change your name to? He replies by saying, from this previous moment I used to be Thomas McKelvin, but from now on call me Ali Haidar, for I don't know a name better than this name. That this is the power of Nahj al-Balagha. So you find analyzing this letter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, it allows us to build the relationship with this book. But no, at the third level, you find that this letter is that letter which is one that shows how an individual should administer society, how an individual should administer his household, and even more general, how a person should administer his life. You look at this letter of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Nahj al-Balagha. You know, in 2002, Kofi Annan, he had an Arab Human Development Report, and it's found online. Kofi Annan, he sent this report to all of the Middle Eastern countries. He said to them that I am surprised that there is anarchy within the Arab world when you have the example of the government of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Then he says this letter of Ali to Malik al-Ashtar is the greatest letter of government ever written by a human being. That he's saying that this is the greatest letter of government ever written by a human being. You know, you've heard of Ranjiv Gandhi, right? Ranjiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India from 1984 to 1989. Ranjiv Gandhi would give this letter to each of the ministers within his cabinet. You know, one day somebody goes to the house of Ranjiv Gandhi. They say towards him that you always speak about this letter, O Ranjiv. I don't see this letter within your home. Where do you keep this letter? Ranjiv Gandhi, he replies by saying that I tried to hide this letter, so I am sincere with it. Whenever I go to sleep, I keep this letter underneath my pillow. And when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is read the letter of Ali to Malik, for I want to know how to administer a society. And indeed, tonight's analysis of this letter of Amir al-Mu'mineen to Malik will take place in a number of stages. Number one, who was Malik al-Ashtar and what can we learn from Malik? Number two, what does Amir al-Mu'mineen mention about how a leader of society should uphold himself? Number three, when the Imam says people are of two types, either they're your brothers in faith and you're equals in humanity, why does the Imam differentiate between the two? Why is it not just one group? And number four, what are some of the other advices of the Imam within this letter that we can derive and apply into our life? And tonight's discussion will be based around these 4 points. Now when it comes to this letter, the first thing that we need to do is understand who Malik al-Ashtar is. Why? Because whenever you study a document, you study it within a context. You don't just take one verse out or one portion out. You have to understand what the context is. And the Imam is writing to Malik. Because he's writing to Malik, this means Malik is an individual who can understand the realities of Ahlul Bayt. And you know, Rasulullah has a famous hadith which states, تَقَلَّمَ النَّاسَ عَلَىٰ قَدْرِ عُقُولِهِمْ. When you speak to the people, speak at the level of their intellect. When Amir al-Mu'mineen is going into so much depth when he's writing to Malik, it shows that Malik is an individual who has the intellect to comprehend the writings of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You see this Malik was the commander of the army of Amir al-Mu'mineen. That within the time period of the Arabs and the Arabs' customs, to be the commander of the army was the greatest honor. Why? It's because the commander reflected the one whom he is commanding for. That's why in the time period of Rasulullah, the commander of his army was Ali ibn Abi Talib. Because Amir al-Mu'mineen was the best reflection of Rasulullah. That's why Rasulullah would say that I am the sun and Ali is the moon. Then why does he say, I am the sun and Ali is the moon? In the same way that the sun is the source of light and the moon reflects the light. The source of the light of hidayat and guidance comes from Rasulullah. The best reflection of that light is Ali ibn Abi Talib. But no, at the second level, when the sun is up, you take light from the sun. But when the sun is not there, where do you get light from? You get light from the moon. In the same way, when Rasulullah is not there, you take that light of hidayah and guidance from Amir al-Mu'mineen. So you see, that's why Amir al-Mu'mineen, he reflected the one whom he was commanding for. In the same way, Malik was the commander of the army of Ali ibn Abi Talib. But you know, these confidants of Ali, these individuals, despite having authority, these were individuals who had a level of taqwa and piety which was uncomparable. You know, one day Malik is in Kufa. A man, he sees Malik, and Malik was from Yemen, so he was a little bit darker complexion. A man, he takes a date seed from a khujur, a date seed, he throws it at Malik. They say to him that, do you know what you've just done? He says, I did nothing. I saw a man, he was a darker complexion, his clothes was ripped, I threw a date seed at him. They'd say to that man that you just threw a date seed at the commander of the army of the Khalifa. The man, he begins to panic at that moment. He says, I have to go find Malik. He's looking for Malik. He's looking for Malik until they say that Malik is within Masjid al-Kufa. The man, he goes to Masjid al-Kufa. He sees that Malik is reciting 2 units of prayer. He waits for Malik to finish. When Malik finishes, he goes up to Malik. He says, oh man, please forgive me. I didn't recognize it was you. That he was talking about the worldly position of Malik. If only he realized the spiritual position of Malik, he wouldn't have done it in the first place. Malik replies by saying, oh man, you have already been forgiven. The reason I was reciting this prayer is for forgiveness on your behalf. That this is Malik al-Ashtar. a name, Malik ibn al-Harith al-Nakha'i al-Ashtar. That when it's al-Nakha'i, it's because he was from the Nakha tribe within Yemen. You know, there were a number of companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen from Yemen. For example, Qumayl bin Ziyad, Dway Qumayl. For example, Uwais al-Qarani. These are individuals who are from Yemen. But why did they stick to Amir al-Mu'mineen? Because they came to Islam because of the blessing of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You find Rasulullah, he sends Khalid bin Walid to Yemen. He says to Khalid, go preach towards the people of Yemen, bring them to Islam. You find 1 month goes by, nobody comes to Islam. 2, no one comes to Islam. 3 months, a full 3 months, nobody comes to Islam. You find at that point that Rasulullah says, oh Ali, go towards Yemen. When Amir al-Mu'mineen goes to Yemen, he only gives 2 sermons in Yemen. The first sermon he gives after Salatul Fajr. In that one sermon, he converted the biggest tribe of Yemen, the tribe of Hamadan, towards Islam. The second sermon, those remaining tribes, he converted them towards Islam. You find Malik was from amongst these people of Yemen. This Malik was an individual that the Imam in Nahj al-Balagha, what does he say about Malik? He says about Malik that I am sending towards you, letter 38 of Nahj al-Balagha, I am sending towards you Malik al-Ashtar, an individual that when he commands you of the truth, listen to Malik. فَإِنَّهُ سَيْفٌ مِّن سُيُوفِ اللَّهِ. For Malik is a sword from amongst the swords of Allah, whose edge does not become dull, and he never misses his target. When Malik tells you to attack, attack. When he tells you to stay, stay. Because neither does he move, neither does he stop, neither does he move anyone backwards, nor does he move anyone forwards, illa an amri, except by my command. You see, Malik was that individual. When Malik would move, it would be by the command of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And that's the lesson which we take from the life of Malik, that when we are the followers of Ahlul Bayt, we move under those ways that would please Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. You know, it was the battle of Siffin. In the battle of Siffin, Malik is fighting through the army. When he's fighting through the army, a point comes where Malik is in front of the tent of Muawiyah. Malik is about to cut through the tent of Muawiyah, arguably the greatest enemy of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. But as the sword of Malik is about to go through that tent, a person comes up to Malik. He says, oh Malik, Ali ibn Abi Talib has commanded us to retreat. You find at that point, there is a battle within the nafs of Malik. In front of Malik is the greatest enemy of Ahlul Bayt. But at that point, Malik, he has heard that his commander, Amir al-Mu'mineen, is telling him to come back. You know, Malik could have justified it. He could have justified it through his emotions, saying that this is Muawiyah, I couldn't kill him. But you find Malik, he recognizes an action which I do for Ahlul Bayt, which is against the commands of Ahlul Bayt, that action, it has no value. You find Malik, he retreats. This is Malik. You know, Malik, he was appointed as governor of Egypt. But Malik, he never reaches Egypt. Why? What had happened was at that point, the governor of Egypt was Muhammad bin Abi Bakr. Muawiyah, he sends Amr bin As with 6,000 troops to overtake Egypt. So Muhammad bin Abi Bakr, he writes to Amir al-Mu'mineen to send an individual who is strong. So the Imam, he sends Malik al-Ashtar. But along the way, there would be pit stops. At those pit stops, you find that one of Muawiyah's soldiers, he gives Malik poisoned honey. Malik ends up passing away before he reaches towards Egypt. And you know what the lines of Muawiyah were? That even Muawiyah recognized the position of Malik towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. When he hears that Malik has been killed, Muawiyah, he says, now I have cut both of the arms of Ali ibn Abi Talib. In the battle of Siffin, I killed Ammar bin Yasir, and now I have killed Malik al-Ashtar. You see, Muawiyah, He calls Malik the arm of Ali ibn Abi Talib. You know, we hear about Amir al-Mu'mineen that it's stated, he is Yadullah, the arm of Allah. That what is the statement, the arm? You find the arm is symbolism, it's not literal. The arm is symbolism for productivity, for doing work within a cause. In the way Malik was an individual who would work for the cause of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen is Yadullah, who would work for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is that reality, that Malik was an individual who was enough for Amir al-Mu'mineen. One day there was a man, he's going from Kufa towards Syria. When he's going towards Syria, a person, he comes up to him, he takes his camel from the man from Kufa. He says, this is my camel. The man from Kufa says, no, this is mine. He says, you know what, we'll go towards Muawiyah's court. You find the man from Syria and the man from Kufa, they go towards the court of Muawiyah. When they go towards the court of Muawiyah, the man from Kufa says, no, this camel, it belonged to me, and he took it from him. The other man, he brought 50 false witnesses to say that the camel belonged to him. He would say that this male camel, it belongs to me. At that point, the man from Kufa, he replies by saying that the camel isn't a male camel, it is a female camel. Muawiyah, he replies by saying that I am the leader in this region, and I say the man from Syria can take the camel. What are you going to do about it? At that point, everyone, they leave the court. As that man from Kufa is leaving the court, you find that Muawiyah says, come towards me. He goes towards him. He gives him money. Then he says, when you go towards Kufa and you return over there, tell Ali ibn Abi Talib that I have 50,000 soldiers ready to fight him, who will follow me so blindly that they will not even differentiate between a male and a female camel. At that moment, the man, he begins to speak. He says, oh Muawiyah, you have planted your seeds in the same way Ali has planted his as well. He is training this defensive beast who will defend him, and his name is Malik al-Ashtar. Then you see Muawiyah had 50,000, but the followers and the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, they took pride in Malik al-Ashtar. And I could go on and on about Malik, but you want to understand the position of Malik, this one line is enough. That Amir al-Mu'mineen says about Malik, Kana li kama kuntu li Rasulullah. That Malik was to me as I was to Rasulullah. Then you know, sometimes I want to explain this statement, but I don't realize fathom the greatness of this statement, because you never have a comparison between the relationships of two infallibles. But over here, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Malik is to me as I was to Rasulullah. This is who Malik al-Ashtar is.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
And you find this Malik was appointed governor of Egypt by Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now when Amir al-Mu'mineen, he writes to Malik, in the beginning of this letter, the first advice, from amongst the first advice he gives to Malik, he says, oh Malik, break your heart off from the passions, especially when they increase. فَإِنَّ نَفْسَ أَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحْمَ اللَّهُ. He says, oh Malik, this animalistic soul within yourself, it commands towards evil, except for the one whom Allah has mercy upon. You see, Amir al-Mu'mineen is teaching a lesson to Malik. He's saying, oh Malik, before you lead a society, before you command others, preach to yourself, oh Malik, first. First, make sure that you are a person of piety, a person who has freed himself. He is not at the helm of his passions that are against the command of Allah. You see, Amir al-Mu'mineen as a leader, this is what he showed, which others they did not show. You see, others, they would take the wealth, they would give towards their family members who were corrupt, they would give them the highest of positions. But no, when Amir al-Mu'mineen becomes Khalifa, they see Amir al-Mu'mineen shivering within the cold. They say, Ya Ali, why don't you get an aba, a cloak which is thicker? It is a cold, it is the winter time. Amir al-Mu'mineen replies by saying that I am afraid that there is somebody in my government in Yemen who is hungry. that the Imam, when he is Amir al-Mu'mineen, that he felt the pain of the Mu'mineen at that time who were suffering through poverty, who were suffering through destitution within that time. You see, the Imam, he reflected their lifestyle. You know, one day, two individuals, the narrators say, me and my son were walking, we saw Ali upon the minbar. When we saw Ali upon the minbar, he was waving his sleeve of his shirt like this. So the son, he asked the father, that why is Ali doing this? Is it hot that he's doing this? The father replies by saying, no. The reason Ali is doing this is because he only has 2 pairs of shirts. He washed both of those pairs of shirts, now it is wet. As he's sitting upon the minbar, he is drying that shirt which he has. That this was the lifestyle of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And this is the type of advice he gives to Malik al-Ashtar. You know, further than that, he says to Malik, he says, "Oh Malik, your leaning should be with the common man, O Malik. For the common man is the pillar of the religion, and he is the strength of the Muslims, and he is the defender of the society against evil." You see, when you have a government, the goal of the government is not to support a top 1% while a middle class is disappearing. No, the goal of the government should be towards the common man. The same way in our life, when we interact with people, don't show akhlaq only towards those that can benefit you. No, morality should be extended towards everyone, whom as from amongst the followers of Ahlul Bayt, those who have humanity within them. This is that reality is showing Malik. You know, I remember within the government of Amir al-Mu'mineen, one day a Jewish individual, not a Muslim, a Jewish individual, he comes towards Kufa. When he comes towards Kufa, he says to one of the administrators of the Imam, that I have a complaint, is there anyone I can go to? They say you can go to the Khalifa Ali. He begins to think to himself, he says, I am a Jewish man, I have a problem, that I am allowed to go directly towards the Khalifa? They said, why not? When they go towards there, they're walking towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. They see that Amir al-Mu'mineen is laying underneath a tree. The Jewish man, he says that, who is that man? They say that is the Khalifa Ali. He says, that is Ali. At that point, he gives a statement. He says, "Oh Ali, it is because of your justice that you are able to lay there so comfortably, oh Ali." You see, when you have a leader of a country today, they have bodyguards, they have CIA, they have different organizations. Amir al-Mu'mineen was the governor, was the Khalifa, the leader of a governance which is equivalent to 50 of today's countries. Not one country. The government of Ali ibn Abi Talib extended to 50 of today's countries. But the Imam, he laid there without any security. That's why the killer of the Imam was called the worst of individuals. That's why Rasulullah used to say that the worst of the killers of the ancient is the killer of the she-camel of Saleh. And the worst of the killers of the latter is the killer of Ali ibn Abi Talib. For the one who kills a ma'asum, when the hujjat has been tamam, you find that there is no forgiveness for that individual. And this is a long discussion in aqaid, that the killer of a prophet and the wasi of a prophet, there is no forgiveness for that individual. You know, that's why they asked the question. They said that, aren't you limiting Allah's mercy? Can Allah not forgive Yazid? We replied by saying it's not a limitation towards the mercy of Allah, but rather Yazid and those killers, they themselves do not have the qualities to enter heaven within themselves. That Allah's mercy is unlimited, but they don't have the capabilities to handle it. This is that reality. You find the Imam, he gives advice after advice to Malik. He says, "Oh Malik, when you appoint ministers, when you appoint people in your cabinet, do not appoint those who are part of evil regimes before you, because you can find people like them in influence who don't share with them in vices." You see, that's why when the Imam, he becomes the Khalifa, right? The first thing he does is he de-appoints all of those individuals who are appointed from the previous regime. Individuals who are causing corruption. Even the Imam, when he becomes Khalifa, the first sermon that he gives, he begins speaking towards the people. He says, "Oh people, if any of you have taken money unjustly from the Baytul Mal, from the public treasury, know that I will take that money back, even if your fathers had paid the dowries of your mothers with that money." that even if your fathers have paid the dowries of your mother with that money, I will take that back. They began to say towards themselves, Ali is only giving a political sermon, that if life was like this, no one can live in a government like this. But you find Amir al-Mu'mineen, he was the practical manifestation of his words, that when the Imam would say something, he would act upon that saying. For the Imam, after all, he is that Qur'anun Natiq, that speaking Qur'an the Imam is. This is the reality of the Imam. And you find what line it comes within this sermon, that the Imam, he says to Malik, O Malik, habituate your heart to mercy, O Malik, and do not stand over your subjects like beasts who are ready to devour them. فَإِنَّهُمْ سَنْفَانِ إِمَّا أَخٌ لَكَ فِي الدِّينِ أَوْ نَذِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ. He says, O Malik, people are of two types. Either they are your brothers in faith or they are your equals in humanity. You see this one line, it summarizes the entire system of life. But the question that comes up is that why does the Imam differentiate between the two? Why does it have to be brothers in faith and equals in humanity? Why can't it just be one group? You know the Quran, it says Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. The believers are brother. Why doesn't it say all of humanity is one brotherhood? You see, within Islam, when we have brotherhood, that brotherhood is for a purpose. It is for a common goal. That goal is Allah and Tawheed. You see, if you have a political party, in the same political party, half the people are on the far left, and the other half are on the far right, what will happen? You'll find that party will collapse because of a clash of ideology. But in the same way, when it comes to the religion of Islam, when Allah is preaching Tawheed and the oneness of Allah, you find the believers, they gather around a common goal and it strengthens them. That's why when you look at an arrow, if you bend one arrow, it'll snap. But if you take 50 arrows, 50, they can't be broken apart. This is the power of brotherhood within Islam. That brotherhood is the strongest bond between two individuals. You know, people will say the bond between a parent and a child is stronger. That although it is the more powerful bond, there is a difference. Because one has authority, the other doesn't have that authority. But when you have brotherhood, you find two individuals, they're at the same level. That's why it is that closer bond. And even Rasulullah, when he goes from Makkah to Medina, the first thing he does is he establishes brotherhood. That you want to establish a community that's progressive, a community that benefits society. Number one, bring the hearts of the believers within the community together. I've seen places where they've had the most beautiful of metal structures, but you find the hearts of the believers in those places, they weren't together. This is that example of Rasulullah. Before you focus on the beauty of the mosque, focus on the beauty of the believers and bringing their hearts together. That's why when he goes to Medina, he makes the Muhajirun and the Ansar brothers of one another. Each similar-minded person was made brothers of a similar-minded person. He would go down the rows. As he's going down the rows, he sees that Ali is crying. He goes to the Imam. He says, Ya Ali, why are you crying upon this day? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Ya Rasulullah, you made everyone the brother of one another, but you haven't made anyone my brother. Listen to the line of Rasulullah. Rasulullah says, Ya Ali, if any of them were like you, then I would have made them your brother. And then he says, Ya Ali, Anta akhi fi dunya wal akhirah. Oh Ali, you are my brother within this world and the hereafter. And this is that reality towards it. And you find Imam, this brother of Rasulullah, he gives advice after advice to Malik. But although he's speaking to Malik, we can take those lessons and apply them into our lives. For example, what does he say to Malik? He says, Oh Malik, when people are doing good and people are doing evil, do not treat them the same. For this will lead the one who does evil to be encouraged to do more. And the one who does good, he'll stop doing good. It's a lesson that when you see two individuals, when one is good, one is bad, that don't treat everyone the same. Have a system of reward and punishment. Because if you don't encourage those who are doing good within the mosque, you find that sometimes that desire which they have, it'll continue to decrease. You find the Imam, he highlights this to Malik. What else does the Imam say to Malik? He says, "Oh Malik, do not repent of forgiving." Look at the wording. Do not repent of forgiving, nor be merciful in punishing. That when you read the words of Nahjul Balagha, you begin to understand the line of Amir al-Mu'mineen when he says, "Kalamul Imam, Imamul Kalam," that the Kalam of the Imam is the Imam of all words. That this is the Imam he's saying. He says, "Oh Malik, do not act hastily during times of anger. And when your authority, it brings pride in you, look at the authority of Allah, the likes of which you don't even have over yourself. And oh Malik, know that your imam, in the way that you are over your subjects, your Imam is over you, and Allah is over your Imam." That this is that chain of command which had existed. The Imam, he continues speaking towards Malik. He says to Malik what? He says, "Oh Malik, cover the faults of your subjects. Do not openly publicize the faults of your subjects in the same way you would want Allah to cover your faults, O Malik." That sometimes we want our mistakes to be hidden, but whenever somebody else makes a mistake, we go on telling the entire world. But no, you want your faults to be hidden, hide the faults of the believers. You know, I remember somebody, they asked Marhum Ayatollah Al-Khui, that when you go around a dead body, a janazah, you say the line, "Allahumma inna la na'lamu minhu illa khair." That I know nothing from this person except good. And if it's a female, you say the feminine version of the siga, minha illa khair. They said to him, "What if I know the person? What if I saw him do evil? What if I saw him sin? Wouldn't I technically be lying? Should I still say that?" Ayatollah Al-Khui replied by saying that that khair which you are testifying to is the wilayah of Ali Muhammad. That when a person has the wilayah of Ali Muhammad, you've given up the right to dig into the faults of that person. And further than that, you find a narration states that when 40 individuals, they go around a janazah and they say, "Allahumma inna la na'lamu minhu illa khair." Allah himself says that look at the believers. They are hiding the faults of their fellow brother. I am Sattarul Uyub. I am the hider of all faults. I have forgiven him. For 40 individuals have said this line. That this is that reality. This is that reality of hiding the faults. Similarly, continuing along the lines, you find that Amir al-Mu'mineen says to Malik, "Oh Malik, your subjects, they're going to make mistakes, and they're going to have slip-ups, and they will wrong you, either on purpose or by accident. Oh Malik, when they do that, forgive them in the same way you would want Allah to forgive you." You know, sometimes we sit there all night, "Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu alayh, Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu alayh." A moment somebody comes up to us that I've wronged you, I want to ask for forgiveness, get out of my face. You find the reality Amir al-Mu'mineen is showing. He's showing that if you want forgiveness, forgive the creation of Allah. For the hadith it states, adopt the akhlaq of Allah. That if Allah is merciful, then you try to have some sort of mercy within your heart. This is that reality. You know, I remember somebody had wronged Allama Tabatabai. They insulted Allama Tabatabai. After that, the other people, they say towards that person that, "Do you know who you've just wronged? You have just wronged Allama Tabatabai, one of the greatest of scholars." He goes to Allama Tabatabai. He says to him, "Please forgive me, I didn't know it was you. I thought you were just somebody who would recite the marthiyah and the eulogies of Hussein." Allama Tabatabai says, "I forgive you," that this is that first step, forgiveness. Then he says to him, "How I wish I was the reciter of the eulogies for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, and all of the academic work I have done in my life, it does not compare to one poem for Imam al-Hussein." That who is Allama Tabatabai? Allama Tabatabai, when he was writing Al-Mizan, 14 hours a day Allama Tabatabai would study when he was writing Al-Mizan. This Allama Tabatabai, he is showing this immense respect for the Aza of Sayyid al-Shuhada. You know, I see people, I see you all sitting here. If you are sitting here today, don't think of it something small. It is tawfiq which brings you here. It is the du'as of somebody who brings you here. Not the du'as of anyone. The du'as of a mother, and that mother is the mother of Hussein Fatima. It's her du'as which brings you here. You see this? This is the azab, Sayyid al-Shuhada. When you come to these gatherings, there is a way to cry for Imam al-Hussein. It's stated that even if you can't cry, do tabaqi, make a face like you're crying. That riya and showing off is not permissible. But when it comes to the azab, Sayyid al-Shuhada, even if you can't cry, make that face. You know, I remember a companion by the name of Abu Basir, he comes to the Imam. The Imam, he says, "Oh Abu Basir, why are you not crying for my grandfather Hussein?" Abu Basir, he takes out the handkerchief. He says, "Oh Mawla, I am crying for your grandfather." He says, "Oh Abu Basir, this isn't the way you cry. When you cry for my grandfather Hussein, cry in the way that my grandmother Zahra would cry for Hussein." You know, tonight's musibah, I know these are the days of captivity for Ahlul Bayt, but I had told someone that tonight I would mention Mukhtar, that Mukhtar and musibah. You know Mukhtar, he didn't know what happened on the day of Ashura, but you know how he would find out? He would capture those killers, and one by one he would ask them what would happen upon that day, and Mukhtar, he would cry. You know, one man, the first person who Mukhtar catches, he says to him, "Oh man, what is your name?" He says, "My name is Shimr." He says, "Oh Shimr, what did you do on the day of Ashura?" Shimr says, "There were three things which I did upon that day in this whole event of Karbala. The first thing which I did was that Umar bin Saad was thinking about not killing Hussein. I am the one who convinced him to go through and attack Hussein." Then he says, "The second thing which I did is that I am the one who burnt the tents towards the women of Hussein, that they would run from one tent towards the other. The third thing, you all know what Shimr did on the day of Ashura. I don't have to go into details." He says, "I saw the neck of Hussein. Hussein was on the plains of Karbala. No one was going towards the body of Hussein. I took that dagger 12 times. I hit the neck of Hussein." Then after that, Mukhtar, he catches another individual. He says, "Oh man, what is your name?" He says, "My name is Bujdil." He says, "Oh Bujdil, what did you do on the day of Ashura?" He says, "I saw the body of Hussein. Hussein had been killed. I saw that there was a ring on the hand of Hussein. I wanted that ring, so I went to the body. I was pulling out the ring, but the ring wouldn't come off. So I took a sword. I cut the finger of Hussein." After that, they bring 10 individuals in front of Mukhtar. Mukhtar, he says to those individuals, "Whom are you?" They say, "We are 10 horse riders." He says, "What did you do on the day of Ashura?" They say, "The body of Hussein was on the ground. We took our horses. We took them over the body of Hussein. The body of Hussein would go towards the left. The body of Hussein would go towards the right." You find one after another. Individuals, they would come towards Mukhtar. But the final individual, Mukhtar, he says to him, "Oh man, what is your name?" He says, "My name is Hormala." Mukhtar, he says, "Oh Hormala, what did you do on the day of Ashura?" Hormala, he says, "I had 3 arrows which I dipped in poison." Mukhtar, he says, "Oh Hormala, where did you fire these arrows?" Hormala says, "Oh Amir Mukhtar, don't make me tell you." Mukhtar says, "No, oh Hormala, you're going to have to say." You find that Hormala, he says, "The first arrow, I saw a man by the Furat. When he went towards the Furat, he got the water, he put it in a mashkiza, he put it in a water bag. I fired my first arrow at that bag which Abbas had. After that, that instead of going towards the tents, he returned back towards the maqtar. You know, after that arrow went into the bag, you find that an arrow went into the right eye of Abbas. You know, there was once a reciter. He was reciting Musiba. In front of him was Ayatollah Yahya Yasrabi. You find that the reciter would say that an arrow went into the eye of Abbas. Ayatollah Yahya Yasrabi narrates that I said to the reciter, don't recite this Musiba. He says, why shouldn't I recite this Musiba? Ayatollah Yasrabi says, it's because you don't know if it is authentic. You find Ayatollah Yasrabi, he says that night when I went to sleep, I saw Abu Fadl Abbas. He said to me, oh Yahya Yasrabi, why did you stop my reciter? Ayatollah Yasrabi says, it's because I don't know if the narration was authentic. Abu Fadl Abbas says, oh Yahya Yasrabi, listen to me. Know that an arrow went into my eye, but when that arrow went, my reaction was to take it off with my hands, but I didn't have any hands, so I would move my shoulders. I was in pain, so what I did is I took that arrow in between my knees. With my knees I put... You find the first arrow. This is what Hurmala says. You find that Mukhtari says, oh Hurmala, where did you fire that second arrow? Hurmala says, oh Mukhtar, don't make me tell you where I fired that second arrow. For this arrow is that one which we used to cut the neck of a camel with. Mukhtar says, oh Hurmala, you're going to have to say. Hurmala says, in the hands of Hussain, there was a 6-month child. Umar bin Saad said to me, Iqta kalam al-Hussain, kill the words of Hussain. I picked up the arrow, I would put the arrow back down. Umar bin Saad said to me, oh Hurmala, if I said to somebody, ask me that who is the most hard-hearted in my army, I would say your name. Oh Hurmala, why don't you fire the arrow? Hurmala, he said to Umar bin Saad, you don't see what I see. I see a lady dressed in black. She's telling me that this child, Ali al-Asghar, is ma'soom, but I fired the arrow at the neck of Asghar. You find that Mukhtar, he says, oh Hurmala, where did you fire that third arrow? Hurmala says, oh Mukhtar, if you can handle to hear it, I'll narrate it. Hussain was upon his horse. Hussain was fighting. Somebody threw a rock at the forehead of Hussain. As Hussain was wiping his forehead, he lifts his abba. I saw the chest of Hussain. I fired that arrow in such a way that the son of Fatima,
على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. Raise your hands, raise your hands.
As I said yesterday, when the tears they begin to fall, this is that time when du'as they are accepted. Tonight, one wasila as well. That wasila is the wasila of Abu Fadl Abbas. You know, narrations they state that on the day of Ashura, Abbas wasn't able to get water for Sakina. But Allah, He gave Abbas something in return. That Abbas wasn't able to get water, but until the day of judgment, he has been made Babul Hawaii. That whenever you have a need, go through the door of Abu Fadl Abbas. We say, oh Allah, we ask you through the right of Babul Hawaii, that wherever the followers of Ahlul Bayt are in difficulty, give them help within these times. That wherever they are facing trials, whether material, whether emotional, whether spiritual, help them. Ya Allah, we pray for those who are preserving our shrines. We pray for the scholars who are working in the path of Ahlul Bayt. We pray for the strength to follow the teachings of Ahlul Bayt in the Quran. We pray for the opportunity to go to the ziyarah of Ahlul Bayt. And Ya Allah, our every dua, it ends with this dua. We pray for the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, Maarif-e-Islam.